Mike Daniels. You guys don't remember who he was. He was a Green Bay Packers defensive tackle for a good bit of time. Went to our team for 1 year. Shout out to Mike Daniels. And I believe he played for another team after us. But with that being said, he talked about us signing Lawrence Sky on Twitter. Now, I made a video yesterday and I talked about this signing, and to be honest, I wasn't really too crazy about it. Because at first looking at it, it's like, okay, we got a guy who hasn't been on the roster since last January. He obviously been in free agency this whole entire time. He does have, a really good past. And then I started kind of deep diving into him and kind of going into, him as a player, him as a person, and, kind of getting more into it. And shout out to Trags on Twitter for posting this. But this is kind of what I got more from. At first, I thought he wasn't really an insane run stuffer. I thought he was like, he was okay, but he was more known just for being I won't say rotational piece, but being a reliable piece on that defensive line. That's really what I thought about when it came to it. But Trags did post on Twitter, said he's a 4-5 tech inside and tackle to defensive end. Stroud run defender and won't get moved. Not particularly heavy on pass rush. Veteran great influencer / leader in the locker room. Can take on double teams. A steal of a pickup if he can stay on the field at 34. And again, that's another thing. He's 34 years old. Now, Lawrence Guy has been kind of utilized in different positions. Majority of it has actually been at the defensive end position. He hasn't really played too much at defensive tackle. We will have to utilize him here at defensive tackle for our needs. So again, there's a bunch of different situations that are, kind of made me at first look at this and say, okay, I mean, it's not a bad signing, but I don't think it's going to completely shift everything. And with the fact that we are getting some guys back, Chris Jenkins very soon, McKinley Jackson next couple weeks, BJ Hill will be healthy eventually, same thing with Sheldon Rankins. It wasn't like a crazy big signing, in my opinion, at first. Now looking at it and kind of getting more details about it, kind of researching about him, learning about him, I'm a lot more excited for this. And Mike Daniels says exactly what I feel now. He said this is huge for the Bengals. They aren't very stout up front right now and will show up the toughness and gap control in the run. Not to mention the true veteran presence and Super Bowl pedigree that he brings. And yes, does bring the Super Bowl pedigree as well. Played for New England for a very long time. But overall wise, I'm just excited that we're getting someone else that can shut down the run, because at this point, that's all we need. We just need people who can shut down the run, get in the backfield and stop that. If we can stop the run on defense, we saw last week versus the Chiefs, okay? They said the Chiefs were going to throw the ball all over us because they have such great receivers and no one can stop the receiving core. Baltimore looked like a 3-year-old child out there trying to stop the receiving core. Like, no one could stop it. Our secondary destroyed them. So because of that, we shut down the run, we're lights out. Especially with the schedule we have, especially with, we have moving forward. I'm very confident if we shut down the run, we will be fine in every circumstance possible. Now, again, like I said, I did look at his grades yesterday, and this is another reason why I think it kind of, I don't want to say I wasn't, too impressed with the signing, but it was kind of like, okay, maybe he'll be good, maybe he won't be good, we'll have to wait and see. And it's because of this. I mean, you look at his grades, and definitely over the last 4 years, he has had a downtick in his career, right? He's 34 years old, and that will happen. Now, for defensive tackles, defensive end, usually it's like fine wine. The older they get, the better they get. But when injuries happen, and you will get injuries as you get older, you will, in this way, start to kind of break down a little bit. And situations where you might once have been really good and everything is perfect, it might not work out too well. But then you also got to look at the fact, and I didn't look at this, before, was New England sucked. New England has sucked the last 2 years. really, since they got Mac Jones, they haven't been that good of a team. So it's not like he's really on a team that was really that good. Now, yes, they did have a good defense because Belichick has always had a great defense, and Bill has been there every year except for this year. And so, again, like I said, there's a lot of situations where it's like their team was trash, their team was awful. Again, I feel like I'm making too many things here. He's also been on, hasn't been on the roster since February. So I'm very excited for this signing. But I feel like, especially when it comes to signing someone off free agency who's been there for a while, I like to try to temper my expectations and not go full on like, this is the best signing of all time. I think it's going to be a very successful signing because I do trust Lou's defense. I trust Lou as a defense coordinator, and I think he's a great defense coordinator. So I think he can really turn anything into gold. Like, he can turn water into wine. He can turn anything into gold. So I have a lot of faith that we're going to be absolutely fine with Lawrence Guy. But again, like I said, that's kind of my thought process yesterday. But reading more into it and looking more into it, I'm actually very excited for this signing. It gives us more, as Mike Daniel says, gives us more stout up front and gives us more options at the defensive line position and more rotation and packages we can use. Now, thankfully, the next two opponents we play against are going to be the Commanders and the Panthers. Neither of them have really stout running backs that I'm scared of, which is nice. But then we do play Baltimore, who does have Derrick Henry. And thankfully to John Harbaugh here, we can all thank John for this. John did come out and say that they are not going to run Derrick Henry 30 times a game. And that they're not going to utilize Derrick Henry like that. Now, we do know, and football fan knows here, is the way you use Derrick Henry correctly is you run him 30, 40 times a game. You wear down a defense, and you slowly let him dissect the defense. That's why Derrick Henry is so dangerous, because he can get 30 carries a game, and as your defense gets tired more and more tired, that's when he's able to really take off. Now, what we saw from the first two games from Baltimore is that they have been using Justice Hill on a clip at pretty much 90% of the actual snaps. Let me actually pull up the snap count here and kind of talk about this, because this is the first running back we're going to play that's actually really good, okay, in the next 3 games. So this is why this is important. But, okay, actually, I'm surprised. 46%? It feels like he's never on the field, but I also got to realize that sometimes he's on the field, but he just doesn't get rushes. So that's another factor. But Justice Hill has been the guy that they've been really utilizing. And you can see even Patrick Ricard, 18 snap, 28% of the time. And John Kelly, I don't even know who that is. Eventually they'll get back Keaton Mitchell, but not until after we play them, so it's good. But they're not giving him, again, what you would see like he would have in Tennessee. Where actually, let me go to Tennessee last year here. Let's go to 2023. Derrick Henry. Yeah, so like 80% of the snaps, Derrick Henry was on the field. And that's what you need to do to really utilize Derrick Henry and destroy people. So with that being said, when we do play them in week 5, which is 3 weeks from now, we're going to have to really focus on him, but he's not their focal point of their offense. The focal point of the offense is going quick with Lamar Jackson, using Justice Hill in the backfield and going quick. So I'm not too scared about that. I'm really not. I mean, Derrick Henry at first seemed like a really scary thing to do or go against, but it's not as scary anymore. So for right now, our defensive line and our D-tackle situation is going to be kind of, wonky, and we're going to have to figure things out. But we have a very good grace period right now for at least the next 3 or 4 weeks where we don't got to play someone who's like a top 5 running back right now. And I'm not saying Derrick Henry won't eventually get top 5, but right now he's not. Right now, Baltimore is not utilizing him to be a top 5. They're utilizing him as like an extra weapon in like short yardage situations, which I think eventually it will get going because Todd Monken is a really good offense coordinator. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. With that being said, guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys next one.